Talking about the Trojans in Iberu, two groups of people that went into Great Britain, Ireland, Norway, and became one people. But then the next arrivals, which remember there were 12 tribes of Israel, Dan was one of the tribes, and Dan entered into this area. I want to read just a little bit about Dan and try to get a worldview as to what's happening in these migrations, where these people are coming from, and who they are. We now consider the origins of the next arrivals in Great Britain, the Danan, or the Danoi, or Dani, or the Danan. So there were two names for this migrant into Ireland, Cornwall, and parts of northern Britain, Scotland, at various times between 1200 and 800 BC. According to the ancient Irish traditions, these Danans came from Greece. This claim is supported by the fact that an important section of the Danric Greeks were called Danan or Danoi. In a work entitled The Annals of Ireland, we read, the Dani were a highly civilized people, well skilled in architecture and other arts from their long residence in Greece and their relations with the Phoenicians. Another work, The Poster of the Khazil, makes the same statement. Modern historians also accept the Grecian identity of the Danines. In Keaton's History of Ireland, we read the Dani were a people of great learning and wealth. They left Greece after a battle with the Assyrians and went to Ireland and also to Denmark. Remember, the Assyrian captivity captured the Judah. The Babylonians captured the Israelites. But during this Assyrian battle going on across the continents, many of the Danites ran away and got out of the battle. They left Greece after a battle with the Assyrians and went to Ireland and also to Denmark. Professor Fuller says that the earliest histories link the Dani with the Greek Dano and the Spartans. And W.E. Gladstone, in his Univistic Modea, also connects the Dania or Dano with the Greece with the Dani of Ireland. As this connection is an accepted fact of history, the question now arises, who were these Dani and Daniel people? The name of the Dani in the ancient language of Ireland, Tuatha De Danann, which translates literally as the tribe of Dan, Tuatha De Danann. The word Tuatha means tribe of Dan. This indicates that the Dani were Israelites. For where else but in Israel was there ever a tribe named Dan? It is certain that the tribe of Dan disappeared from Palestine at the early dates. For examination of the role of the tribes is given in the Revelation chapter 7 reveals that Dan is missing. Their disappearance agrees with the arrival in Greece of the Danos, of whom the Danos were the chief group. So where they disappeared in Palestine, they reappeared in Greece, as we talked about before. The explanation of the Dan's disappearance from Palestine, Iliad Hadana, a classic 10th century AD Jewish historian, says, in Jeroboam's day, Dan refused to shed his brother's blood, and rather than go to war with Judah, he left the country and went in a body to Greece and to Denmark. Denmark was originally called Dansmark, or Dan's land. In the Vitus Chronicles Holospic, we read, Dani and Jewets are Jews of the tribe of Dan. William Camden, the father of English history in the 16th century work, Britannicana, references to another historian of his time, Posterlus Fletcher, the original inhabitants to the land thereof from the Hebrew, so that Iran should be as much as Iran, that is, the Jews' land. The Jew, forsooth, saith, he being most wise, sage, and learned philosopher, knowing by their learning that the empire of the world should be settled in the strongest angle which leadeth the west, seizing upon parts of Ireland with the first. The Syrians also, the Tyrenes, to lay the foundation of their future empire, endeavored all they could to inhabit those regions. Hibernia, Ireland. This shows that the early colonization of Ireland by people of Hebrew origin was known and taught by some in his day. Hard reading this. I don't have my glasses on. I'm trying to read it without my glasses. The Serpent's Trail of Dan. Dan was, if you read Dan's prophecy, where it's in the book of Genesis, the 12 tribes prophecy, each tribe was prophesied something, and Dan was prophesied as the serpent's trail. And the serpent's trail would leave his mark wherever he went. The mark of Dan, Danmark, Dan's mark. Dan was the tribe that was to judge his people. And I say that he's not in the book of Revelations because he didn't need a judge. Once Jesus comes back, there's no need for a physical judge. Christ is the judge. Dr. Robert Latham was one of the most respected 19th century authorities and firmly stated that the Dani of Greece were the Israelite tribe of Dan. In his genealogy of Europe, Latham comments, neither do I think that the eponymous or founder of the Argiv Dani was other than that of the Israelite tribe of Dan, only we are so used to confining ourselves to the soil of Palestine in our consideration of the history of the Israelites that we ignore the share they may have taken in the ordinary history of the world. The late Cyrus Gordon was called the leading American archaeologist of the 20th century by Biblical Archaeology magazine in March of 1996. In his book, Before Columbus, he also stated as fact that the Dani, or the Danaan, were the biblical tribe of Dan. Gordon relates, a group of sea people bore the name of Dan. The Bible tells how a segment of the seafaring, that's in Judges 5, verse 17, Danites were part of the tribal system of the ancient Israel. The Danans were widespread. This name changes a lot when you're talking about Dan. Cyprus was called Ladan, the island of Dan. The same people were called Danu, and under the name they appear as rulers of the plain of Adana in Cilicia. Greek traditions has their eponymous ancestry Danos, Dan, migrating from the Nile Delta to Greece. Note that the Israelites did, in fact, immigrate from Egypt. That's found in the Encyclopedia Judaica. Quote leading Israel archaeologist Yedin, who states, there is a close relationship between the tribe of Dan and the tribe of Danon, whose members were clearly seafarers. The encyclopedia also tells us the name Dan should be regarded as a short form of Dana, or the like. Cyrus Gordon added, Virgil also designated the Greeks as Dani. Both scholars see the influence of the Danis in Irish folklore and in the name of Denmark being Dansmark, the land of Dan. Thus it is certain that the Dani, or Dano of Ireland, Cornwall, and Scotland, the Dana, Greece, as well as the Dans of Denmark, were Israelites of the tribe of Dan, including variable sections from the writing of Dr. Robert Latham and Dr. Cyrus Gordon on the Hebrew connection. Next, I'm going to talk about the Malaysians. I know I stumbled through this, but there's proof that all the tribes of Israel were scattered among the world, and there's evidence that the tribe of Dan ended up in Denmark, which was originally Dansmark, Ireland, Scotland, England. There's more proof than just what I read there. And there were 4 or 5 scholars and a couple of historians that agree that the Danites, or Danans, were Israelites. So just further proof that these boundaries were set long ago, and these people are blind to the fact that they're Israelites. I'm not calling them Jews, they're not Jews. I don't call them Jews. If anything, they're Israelites. More the children of Israel than there are of Judah. All the promises, therefore, in the Bible pertaining to this subject, in this study, proves that they could not have been fulfilled just in the Jews only, being the small remnant of people that are actually Jews in the world today, compared to the multitudes as numerous as the sand of the seashore that they must be today. There's a lot more comparison to that that's revealed in the Bible that I'm going to get into later, because in the last days, the Jews are well aware of the Israelites. And what we've gone through with this peace agreement with Israelites rather than Jews tells a lot. But most Christians of the church age are blind to the fact that there were two houses. And the one house that was divorced ended up with more children than the one that stayed married to Christ through all these years. And that's what this study's about. Knowing who you are, knowing where you came from, and knowing where you're going. That's what it's about.
My heart was dead, cold in my chest, a stone in my flesh. But grace has a voice that reaches the meek, it leans for the lowly. And all that I was, the scarlet and dust under the flood. The power of the curse coming undone under the blood. And I'm born again, 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 I'm born again. Oh. Now there is a fire, a promise of light burning inside. Taste and see, you thirsty drink, sink in the deep, into the tide, hidden with Christ, buried to rise. Up from the grave, the seed won't decay, but it must be laid down to be born again, to be born again, to be spirit is alive. Oh, my heart is full of light. Your goodness fills my eyes. My bones are full of fire. My spirit is alive. My heart is full of life. Your goodness fills my eyes. My bones are breathing fire. Oh, I'm born again. 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 There is no river that runs wide as your goodness. There is no mountain that stands tall as your faithfulness. There is no river that runs wide as your goodness. There is no mountain that stands tall as your faithfulness. And there's nothing else I'll ever need. All of my days your mercy followed me. There is nothing else I'll ever need. All of my days your mercy followed me. Father, you never delay in keeping a promise. There is no wonderful thing that you have withheld from us. Father, you never delay in keeping a promise. There is no wonderful thing that you have withheld from us. You've never been wrong. You've never been wrong. You've never been wrong. You've never been wrong. There is nothing else I'll ever need. All of my days your mercy follows. There is